What's going on, everybody? It's Eric, and we're continuing our series on CompTIA Security Plus and making sure that we fill in the gaps that we don't necessarily cover at the Panola College level, or if we do, we kind of glance over them and get to spend more time over them over here. And the CBT side of the house, where CompTIA strictly enforces you should be in IT security experience for 5 years or whatever. IT security should be available for everybody out there. And if you're willing to put forth the effort, I'm willing to meet you halfway and carry you the rest. So we're going to take a sneak over to our CompTIA material that we have inside the coursework. And I'm going to be popping up a screenshot of the book we're using right here. So that way, if you want, you can go to wherever you buy books at and get this one, because we highly recommend this one, or I personally highly recommend this one on a personal level, and totally not affiliating with anybody on this one. But inside of Chapter 8, we're referring to something called password vaults. And the reason that we're specifically bringing this up is because I've had a couple of students get back to me and ask me, where does password vaulting and password manager or password management come into play as far as the examination goes for Security Plus? And that's because it's been identified by more than one already that there's been questions about it, and I want to address it here. So password vaults is basically what it sounds like. It's a vault that stores passwords, right? Well, and they're commonly referred to as password managers on the low key, because sometimes CompTIA likes to use different phrases for different things. So when you think password vault, it's password manager. And it's a place for us to store multiple passwords in case we want to use one master password or authentication method to be able to access those login credentials for multiple sites. Now, can we think of a good example of this in real time? Absolutely. If you are a user of Google Chrome, or any other browser for that matter, but specifically Google Chrome, we'll come back to that in a second, that there is a password vault and a password manager stored inside of that browser that allows you to store credentials to different websites. Now, that is a type of password management system in use for you, the user, and can be implemented throughout the entire organization if wanted or needed. Now, I bring up Chrome for a reason, because we can add different profiles to Chrome and have different password managers / password vaults for those different users altogether. Now, we're not going to get into the security risk of this. That's actually a course that I cover way later on, talking about pen testing. I know you want to get there, and we're going to do it. But before we start talking about breaking those open, just know that that password vault, password manager, interchangeable term right there, is a way for us to be able to store multiple credentials into one. Now, what about from the operating system level? Well, I'm glad you asked, because I have an example for you. Okay, so here we are inside of Windows 10 on this actual recording station right here, and I have the control panel opened up. Now, I don't have Windows 11 popped up, and I know how to do this, and it's pretty similar, but the reason we're sticking with 10 is because Security Plus and CompTIA don't really use Windows 11 for any kind of examples yet. That may change in the next revision of the test, so please keep that in mind. But inside of our control panel, I have small icons turned on. Now, you may be wondering why the difference. Well, if I go to category, that's what it looks like. And if I go to large icons, I can't really see everything that's going on one screen. This is a user preference, or as we like to say in the DoD or in the Army, shooter's preference. Now, I'm going to small icons, and what I'm doing is I'm going inside of user accounts. And when we open up user accounts, we have a couple of different options there and stuff like that. But most importantly, we're looking here on the left, top left right here, where it says manage your credentials. Give me 1 second. I'll turn on my zoom in so you can see it. Okay, there we go. I totally forgot to turn it on, but I made up for it. So we're going to click on manage your credentials, and we can see here that there are two types of credentials that are stored. One of them being web credentials and Windows credentials. Now, I'm not going to click on that Windows credentials because I have a bunch of stuff here locally on the system. But you get the idea. When we're talking about username and passwords here locally on this system or stored on different websites, Windows credentials can cover that. But specifically inside of web credentials for Windows 10, if you're studying for any Microsoft exam out there, this is where it will stay if it's inside of Edge. Or in the old days, I miss you already, Internet Explorer. Now, still no luck for those Netscape users. But web credentials for the actual web browser inside of Microsoft, but Windows credentials for the operating system itself, and we'll cover other websites and stuff like that if you so desire to put them in there. This usually pops up when you go to a website, you log in, and says, do you want to store these credentials? Same as in Chrome, except in Chrome, it's actually doing it inside of the Chrome program itself and has a specific save file to it. Again, different stuff for later on. But I just wanted to do a simple coverage of what a password vault and a password management is. And do remember, it is in our book here, and it's listed under authentication methods. And it's referred to in it right here as another common solution for authentication management, just like we covered. It is generally a software solution, so please keep that in mind, because very rarely do you see a physical solution or a hardware solution. They do exist, but an example of a physical solution would be if I wrote it down on a notepad and stored it inside of a safe. The safe is not required, but it makes me feel better at night, and I sleep more tightly. That's all I have for this one. Do keep in mind that password vault, password management, kind of interchangeable, and they help us be able to store multiple credentials under one specific type of credential, like a master login or something like that. Really appreciate everybody helping me out, pointing out videos that need to be made for CompTIA Security Plus and other things within the Panola program, or even on the CBT side. This is where we kind of do our meet and greet and make sure that we cover things that aren't necessarily picked on enough inside of either one of those. So if you have any other ideas or things you want to see in the future, leave a comment below. Share, like, share with your friends, make your friends watch it. But I'm Eric, and if you have anything else, let us know, and have a good one. Addendum! I do want to point out before we go that there are some cases where master passwords and master credentials that are covering those password vault, password managements are stored in an encrypted type state. Most commonly AES, whatever variety of AES they decide to use. And we'll go over encryption in a later video. But the reason I bring this up is because not all password managers or password vaults do use that encryption or encryption at all. So please keep that in mind. There are popular password managers out there, let's say like LastPass, which uses AES as their encryption algorithm for that master credential. But there are other things like inside of Windows that don't use AES, and they use the local Windows password management on here, which is, let's say, NTLM. Had a brain fart there for a second. And the reason it is NTLM is because whenever we go inside of our control panel right here, and we go into web credentials, if we ask it to show us the passwords, it's going to say enter your user credentials for whoever you're logged in as right now or as in the admin. And that user credential is stored on the local system inside the SAM. And if you're on a local Windows system like this right here, it's NTLM inside the SAM. Or if you're on a domain, it's Kerberos. Kerberos. It's the Windows domain authentication method. So do keep that in mind. See you next time.